Welcome to Ancient Forbidden Knowledge. I'm your host, Ben Carter, and in today's episode, we examine a world of discoveries that should not exist. A hammer sealed inside rock dated to over 100 million years ago, a modern coin embedded in an ancient tomb, metallic spheres with machined grooves buried in earth from before the rise of humans. These are not myths or internet hoaxes. They are catalogued, photographed, and in many cases, stored in museum basements or quietly removed from public view. If these artifacts are real, truly real, then the history we have been taught is not just wrong, it is a deliberate fiction. What happens when physical objects defy the timeline of humanity itself? And why are they always buried, hidden, or dismissed as mistakes? The story begins in the dense jungles of central Mexico, where in the early 1930s, archaeologist William Niven uncovered a series of carved stone tablets buried beneath volcanic ash. These tablets, unlike anything found in the known Mesoamerican record, depicted advanced astronomical symbols, humanoid beings in strange suits, and what appeared to be flying machines. Niven believed he had stumbled upon a pre-flood civilization, far older than the Olmecs or Mayans. He shipped hundreds of the tablets to the United States, where they were briefly exhibited, then vanished into private collections and university vaults. Today, only grainy photographs remain of many of them. Official records dismiss the tablets as fakes or misinterpretations, but Niven was no amateur. He had worked with renowned institutions, and his career was considered respectable until he presented findings that challenged the accepted history. Across the ocean in South Africa, strange metallic spheres were being pulled from deep inside Precambrian rock formations, geological layers estimated to be over 2.8 billion years old. These objects, perfectly round and grooved with equidistant lines, became known as Klerksdorp spheres. While some scientists claim they are natural concretions formed by geological pressure, others insist their symmetry and craftsmanship suggest intentional design. If they are artificial, they would have to predate not just humanity, but multicellular life. The implications are staggering. In Illinois, during the mid-19th century, workers digging a well claimed to have unearthed a small copper figurine embedded in a layer of coal. That coal was estimated to be over 250 million years old. Skeptics dismissed the find as a hoax, yet similar stories have emerged again and again throughout modern history. Coins found sealed in rock, nails embedded in stone, and tools lodged in sediment dated millions of years before any known hominids walked the earth. These accounts often share common elements. The object is discovered accidentally, it does not belong in the layer in which it is found, and it disappears soon after the discovery. Either the object is quietly confiscated, lost, or simply removed from the public record. The scientific establishment has largely chosen silence or ridicule in the face of these reports. Most museums refuse to display such artifacts, not because they have proven them false, but because they do not fit within the established model of human history. If even one of these discoveries is genuine, it upends everything we believe about our past. The prevailing view of history is linear and gradual, primitive humans evolving into modern civilization over tens of thousands of years. But these anomalous artifacts hint at something else entirely. A cycle, perhaps. A forgotten chapter in which intelligent life, possibly human, possibly not, flourished and vanished, long before the civilizations we know today. In 1936, deep in the sedimentary rock formations near London, Texas, a hammer was discovered encased in a nodule of limestone. The rock surrounding the hammer was dated by some geologists to be more than 100 million years old, well before the rise of any tool-making humans, according to mainstream science. The hammer itself appeared to be made of iron, but the metal had not rusted. Its wooden handle was partially fossilized, and the head was sealed tightly within the stone. The artifact came to be known as the London Hammer, and it quickly became the subject of heated debate. Scientists dismissed the dating methods. They claimed the concretion could have formed around the hammer more recently through natural processes. But if that were true, why had it never been replicated under controlled conditions? The hammer, now housed in a private museum, remains a silent challenge to accepted timelines. Another discovery, even more unsettling, came in Nampa, Idaho. In 1889, a tiny, intricately carved human figure was brought up from a depth of over 300 feet by workers drilling for water. The strata it emerged from was dated to the Pliocene period, approximately 2 million years ago. The figure, made of fired clay, showed features far more advanced than anything attributed to early hominids. It was not crude or primitive. It was deliberate, symmetrical, and made with a level of craftsmanship requiring tools and knowledge supposedly non-existent at the time. The object was submitted to the Smithsonian Institution and quietly forgotten. Officially, the Nampa figurine is considered an anomaly, possibly a hoax or a mistake. But the workers involved had no motive, no means to plant it, and had reported the find immediately. To this day, no one has definitively explained how it could have arrived at such depth. Similar enigmas have surfaced in unexpected places. In China, a series of aluminum objects were recovered from a cave near Baigong Mountain. Among them was a pipe-like structure embedded in the rock. The surrounding area lacked any signs of human habitation or industry, and yet these metallic tubes had penetrated deep into the mountain itself. Tests suggested the aluminum was extremely pure, and the objects appeared to be at least 150,000 years old. Chinese scientists could offer no conclusive explanation. Some speculated that they were remnants of a forgotten civilization. Others whispered about extraterrestrial machinery abandoned in Earth's distant past. These discoveries are not isolated. They have emerged across every continent, often reported by local labourers, amateur geologists, or curious citizens rather than professional archaeologists. And almost every time the pattern is the same. The object challenges established historical timelines. Its discovery is met with interest, followed by disbelief, then dismissal. Artifacts vanish into institutional vaults, dismissed as errors or fakes without thorough investigation. But the question remains: how many of these artifacts were never reported at all? How many were found and discarded by workers too fearful or skeptical to recognize their significance? And how many more remain buried, waiting to be discovered, sealed inside stone, beneath soil, and beneath the story we have been told? In a secluded corner of a private collection in India lies an artifact that defies both time and logic. A small metallic object, no larger than a coin, etched with what appears to be a microscopic engraving. This artifact, often referred to as the Mohenjo-Daro disc, was reportedly unearthed during early 20th century excavations of the ancient Indus Valley site. What makes it remarkable is not just its age, estimated to be over 4,000 years old, but the precision of its design. Under magnification, the disc reveals geometric patterns that seem far too fine and symmetrical to have been created with Bronze Age tools. The design mirrors a fractal spiral, a pattern rarely found in ancient ornamentation but common in modern algorithms. No official study has been published. The artifact was never displayed publicly. Its existence is known only through photographs and second-hand accounts from researchers who claim to have briefly handled it before it was removed from circulation. In South America, the Nazca Plateau is famous for its massive geoglyphs, visible only from the air. But less well known are the smaller, more bizarre artifacts found buried beneath the surface. Metallic rods, tiny models of what look like delta-wing aircraft, and etched stones depicting surgical procedures, telescopes, and even dinosaurs. These are known collectively as the Ica stones. Discovered in caves and tombs near Ica, Peru, they were brought to public attention by Dr. Javier Cabrera in the 1960s. The stones sparked controversy, with skeptics calling them forgeries and defenders insisting they were proof of a forgotten global science. Despite widespread media dismissal, thousands of the stones were catalogued, many with patina and wear suggesting great age. Some were allegedly unearthed from sealed strata, untouched for centuries. If authentic, the images they display would require a level of anatomical and technological understanding thousands of years ahead of recorded civilization. Then there is the Cosca Cave in southern France, where underwater passages reveal hand stencils and paintings believed to be over 27,000 years old. Among the depictions are marine life that should not have existed in that era, including certain now extinct species, drawn with anatomical accuracy. Even more puzzling are symbols found etched near the entrance, complex geometric shapes and star formations that do not match the primitive cave art found elsewhere. French authorities have since restricted access to the site. While the official explanation cites preservation concerns, others argue that the cave's full contents have never been disclosed to the public. These fragments of forbidden archaeology are not relics of superstition or crude imagination. They are physical, tangible anomalies, objects and symbols that persistently defy linear chronology. They do not ask for belief. They demand only observation. But even that, it seems, is too dangerous. Because if one artifact speaks a different history, it can be ignored. But when they begin to echo each other, across continents, across eras, across disciplines, they no longer speak. They roar, and the silence from institutions becomes harder to justify. What is most unsettling is not that these objects exist, but that so few have ever heard of them. Across cultures that never made contact, echoes of the same symbols, structures, and stories appear again and again, etched in stone, carved in temples, and passed down through sacred texts. These patterns, often dismissed as coincidence or convergence, begin to suggest something deeper, a shared memory or influence that stretches beyond geography and time. Consider the ancient motif of the serpent, revered in Mesoamerica, feared in Mesopotamia, and venerated in India. In the Mayan world, the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl was seen as a bringer of knowledge. In Sumer, Enki, the god of water and wisdom, was associated with serpentine symbols. In India, the Nagas were serpent beings guarding the underworld and sacred treasures. The serpent, always intertwined with knowledge, underground realms, and transformation. How did this single symbol appear so widely with such similar meaning? The pyramid is another example. Found in Egypt, Sudan, Mexico, Peru, and even parts of Asia, the pyramid emerges in cultures separated by oceans and centuries. The step pyramids of Teotihuacan mirror the ziggurats of Mesopotamia. The angles, the alignment with celestial bodies, the belief that these structures served as bridges between earth and sky, all suggest a knowledge that was shared, preserved, and replicated. But where did it come from, and who was the first to build? Even more confounding is the use of precise astronomical alignments. Ancient monuments across the globe are calibrated with solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycles with a precision that rivals modern instruments. At Nabta Playa in Egypt, stone circles track the summer solstice and the rising of Sirius. In Cambodia, Angkor Wat mirrors the constellation Draco. In the Andes, Machu Picchu's Intihuatana stone marks both the zenith and nadir of the sun. These alignments required not only observation, but long-term recording, complex calculations, and an understanding of celestial mechanics. This knowledge appears suddenly in ancient history, without gradual development, without a clear source. Mythologies, too, repeat themselves. Tales of a great flood that resets humanity, of sky beings who descend and teach the arts of civilization, of golden ages that ended in cataclysm. These are found in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the Popol Vuh, the Book of Enoch, and the Rig Veda. Different languages, different symbols, but the same underlying narrative. A past advanced civilization destroyed. Survivors scattered. Knowledge hidden, waiting. Even the use of megalithic stones, too large to move by known ancient means, appears in cultures as distant as the builders of Stonehenge, the architects of Baalbek, and the engineers of Puma Punku. The same impossible precision, the same interlocking joins. The same silent question, how? Either all these cultures independently developed the same ideas, the same architecture, the same symbols, and the same myths, or they inherited them from a common source. A source lost to history, buried beneath layers of sand, sea, and silence. These patterns are not random. They are fingerprints, and they suggest that something, someone, left a mark across the entire ancient world. When questioned, the academic response to these patterns is almost always the same: coincidence, independent innovation, or misinterpretation. Scholars point to psychological archetypes, natural convergence, or the limitations of ancient languages as explanations, and while those answers may suffice for isolated similarities, they begin to collapse under the sheer volume and specificity of the anomalies. Yet most experts remain unmoved. The reason, it seems, is not a lack of curiosity, but the weight of the institutions that shape what is acceptable to question. Modern archaeology operates under the guardianship of funding bodies, university boards, and peer-reviewed journals. To publish findings that suggest advanced civilizations existed before the known rise of human society is to risk professional suicide. Grants vanish. Careers stall. Reputations are quietly dismantled. Young researchers are taught not just what to study, but what not to. And at the top of these institutions, the unspoken rule is clear: do not disturb the timeline. This resistance is not rooted solely in science, it is embedded in ideology. The current view of history, which begins with primitive humans slowly evolving into modern civilization, reinforces a particular worldview. It implies progress is linear, that we are the pinnacle of development, and that nothing came before. To admit the existence of an earlier, possibly more advanced epoch, is to rewrite not just textbooks, but humanity's place in the cosmos. Some academics have dared to question the consensus. Their work is often labelled pseudoscience, regardless of the evidence. Their credentials are stripped, and their names are removed from conferences. In the 1970s, a respected scientist named Virginia Steen McIntyre found that volcanic ash deposits, linked to early human artifacts in Mexico, dated back 250,000 years. Far older than humans were supposed to be in the Americas. Her findings were methodologically sound, but rejected outright. She was accused of incompetence and sidelined. Her career never recovered. The same pattern emerges again and again. When a discovery fits the accepted narrative, it is celebrated. When it contradicts it, it is ignored or ridiculed. Museums hold countless artifacts that remain unclassified or hidden in storage because they do not fit. Universities have archives of excavation reports that were never published. Scientists privately admit to anomalies they do not understand, but will not speak of them on record. It is not the evidence that is lacking, it is the permission to see it. And this firewall of silence has consequences. It narrows the scope of our imagination. It prevents us from asking the questions that might lead us to truths long buried. It replaces discovery with dogma. And the cost is not just academic, it is existential. Because if we have been here before, if civilizations have risen and fallen, if knowledge has been gained and lost, then the true story of humanity is not one of steady ascent, but of cycles, amnesia, and warnings left in stone. Beyond the reach of academic consensus, a growing network of independent researchers, explorers, and thinkers have begun piecing together alternative theories, ideas once labelled fringe, now gaining momentum. These are not wild speculations born of fantasy. They are attempts to explain patterns that refuse to go away. They draw from physics, mythology, geology, and ancient texts, not to dismiss science, but to ask what science might be overlooking. One theory suggests that the Earth has hosted multiple technologically advanced civilizations, each destroyed by cataclysm. These are not just the Atlantean myths or Vedic cycles. They are grounded in the evidence of sudden climate shifts, mass extinctions, and the global scars of forgotten disasters. The theory of crustal displacement, proposed by Charles Hapgood in the mid-20th century and supported by Albert Einstein, posits that the Earth's outer shell can shift rapidly, causing continental-scale devastation. Such a shift could obliterate entire civilizations, burying their monuments and scattering their survivors, leaving behind only the impossible artifacts we now struggle to explain. Others propose that knowledge once flowed from a central source, a lost mother civilization, sometimes called Mu, sometimes Lemuria, sometimes Atlantis. Its survivors, after a global catastrophe, spread remnants of their wisdom to different parts of the world. This would explain the sudden appearance of agriculture, astronomy, and megalithic architecture in isolated regions, without any slow build-up of knowledge. It would also explain the recurrence of identical myths across continents, stories of sky gods, serpents, floods, and fire from above. Then there are theories that stretch further, into the realm of cosmic influence. Ancient texts like the Book of Enoch describe beings descending from the heavens, teaching forbidden knowledge to humans. The Sumerians wrote of the Anuna, gods who walked among men. The Dogon tribe of Mali speaks of amphibious star beings from Sirius. If these are not metaphors but records, then the artifacts we uncover, the hammers in stone, the machines in caves, the pipes in mountains, may not be the remains of humans at all. Some believe these relics are the remnants of a forgotten technology, not computers and satellites, but energy systems tuned to the Earth itself, resonant harmonics, crystalline grids, and electromagnetic manipulation. This could explain why many ancient structures are located on ley lines, why certain stones were chosen for their piezoelectric properties, and why temples and pyramids hum with measurable frequencies. In this view, the artifacts are not broken tools of war, but fragments of a science we no longer understand. Others go further still, suggesting that consciousness itself was once understood in a radically different way. That ancient humans, or their predecessors, operated with a deeper integration of mind, matter, and spirit. That these artifacts are physical anchors for a knowledge system not based in logic or mathematics, but in resonance, intention, and the unseen architecture of reality. These theories are not easily proven, but they are consistent. Consistent with the anomalies, consistent with the myths, and consistent with what we feel deep down when we see a temple that should not exist, or a sculpture that whispers of hands too old to name. They are not answers. They are keys, and each one opens a door into a version of history too vast, too strange, and too dangerous to be taught. If the official story is incomplete, then we must ask, who benefits from the silence? Who gains from a history that begins with ignorance and ends with obedience? The idea that powerful knowledge has been hidden is not new. It is embedded in the very foundation of empires, religions, and regimes throughout time. In every age, those who held knowledge held power, and those who sought to challenge that knowledge were cast out, imprisoned, or erased. The early church once dictated what books could be read, what truths could be spoken, and what heresies deserved fire. Ancient temples guarded their mysteries with walls of initiation, restricting sacred knowledge to a chosen few. Modern governments classify documents, redact discoveries, and fund only the science that aligns with policy. The mechanisms may have changed, but the goal remains the same: control the story, and you control the mind. Suppressed artifacts are not just inconvenient, they are dangerous. They imply that we have been lied to, that the systems we trust, education, media, religion, science, are not neutral arbiters of truth, but filters designed to preserve a particular view of reality. A view that disempowers the individual, erases the past, and narrows the horizon of what is possible. Imagine for a moment that humanity once knew how to access energy from the earth without fuel or wires. That consciousness was once more than thought. It was a force that could be directed, shaped, and amplified. That healing, memory, and even time itself were once understood in ways we now call magic or myth. What would happen if that knowledge were rediscovered today? Oil empires would collapse, pharmaceutical monopolies would lose their grip, military control would falter, the very foundations of modern power would tremble. It is not hard to see why certain truths must remain buried. This is not a conspiracy of men in shadows. It is a structure, a legacy inherited and perpetuated by institutions that do not even question their own blindness. Universities teach what they were taught. Museums display what they are told is real. Journalists report what will not cost them their careers. The lie continues, not through malice, but through momentum. And still, the erasure continues. Artifacts vanish from excavation sites. Whistleblowers are discredited. Alternative researchers are mocked, demonetized, or banned. Even digital platforms are now part of the apparatus, flagging what they call misinformation without ever addressing the evidence. The goal is not to disprove, it is to silence. Because silence is easier than confrontation, easier than rewriting every book, every timeline, every foundation upon which our world was built. And yet the truth persists, in stone, in myth, in the forbidden fragments that refuse to disappear, not because they are believed, but because they are real. And they wait, quietly, beneath our feet, behind locked doors, just beyond the reach of the official narrative. If even a fraction of these discoveries are authentic, then everything we believe about our past, our origins, our purpose, our potential, must be reconsidered. Because hidden in these anomalies is a message, one not carved in letters or languages, but in contradiction itself. They tell us that the human story is far older, far deeper, and far stranger than the textbooks allow. They tell us we are not the first to walk this earth with knowledge, nor will we be the last to forget it. Imagine a world where these truths had not been buried, a world where ancient energy systems powered cities in harmony with the planet, where knowledge was not guarded by elite classes but shared among all, where spiritual understanding was not superstition but science, where humanity saw itself not as a fragile accident in a hostile universe, but as a conscious part of a vast, intelligent design. That world might have existed once, maybe more than once. The implications ripple outward. If ancient people built with a precision we still struggle to replicate, then perhaps we are not more advanced, only more distracted. If they tracked celestial movements over tens of thousands of years, then perhaps their minds were not primitive, but attuned to patterns we no longer see. And if their stories of sky beings and watchers are more than myth, then our place in the cosmos is not what we think it is. This understanding changes how we see ourselves. We are not at the beginning of knowledge, but in the middle of a cycle of ascent, amnesia, collapse, and rediscovery. And if we are, as some traditions suggest, near the end of one cycle and the beginning of another, then perhaps these forbidden artifacts are not just reminders, but warnings, echoes from those who came before, telling us that the forgetting is always followed by fire, flood, or fall. The suppression of ancient knowledge is not just an academic failure. It is a theft of identity, a theft of power, a theft of possibility. And as long as the story remains incomplete, humanity remains weakened, disconnected from its roots, blind to its potential. But cracks are forming. The veil is thinning. With every unearthed anomaly, every decoded myth, and every courageous questioner, the illusion begins to fracture. What was once hidden is now resurfacing. Not because it was allowed, but because it must. Because there are those who still seek, still dig, still remember. And in the silence of sealed chambers and forgotten tombs, truth waits not to be believed, but to be seen. Beneath the polished narratives and curated timelines lies a different kind of history, one carved in stone, hidden in vaults, and scattered across the ruins of civilizations long erased. It is not orderly. It is not convenient. It is jagged, fragmented, and deeply unsettling. But it is real. And it tells a story that no textbook dares to print, a story of lost brilliance, of fallen worlds, of a knowledge so vast and so dangerous that it had to be buried again and again. The forbidden artifacts we have explored are not accidents. They are not outliers. They are survivors. Survivors of fire and flood, of conquest and concealment, of denial and destruction. Each one is a voice echoing across time, whispering that what we know is not all there is. They do not just belong to the past. They are warnings to the present. Proof that the truth will not die, even if it is buried for 1,000 years. And maybe that is why they endure. Because deep down, humanity remembers. Not in the mind, but in the marrow. In our myths, in our dreams. In the inexplicable pull we feel toward ancient places and silent stones. We are not just descendants of apes and accident. We are descendants of something more. Something luminous that was shattered. Something sacred that was silenced. To hold one of these forbidden artifacts is to feel that weight, not just of stone or metal, but of meaning. To know that this object is older than our history, smarter than our arrogance, truer than our textbooks, and the hands that made it, the minds that shaped it, the civilizations that vanished with it, they are not gone. They are waiting. For us to see, for us to remember. Because when we open our eyes to forbidden knowledge, we do not just recover lost facts, we recover a piece of ourselves. A piece that knows the world is wider than we are told, that time is deeper than we can measure, that truth is stronger than silence. Thanks for listening. This has been Ancient Forbidden Knowledge. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to support the show, subscribe to the Forbidden Knowledge Network on Patreon. Subscribe now.